Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. It's a Road Show Monday. It's Hail Varsity Radio presented by the Nebraska Lottery here at Haymarket Park. As juniors team, the Lincoln A's are in the third base dugout. Just saw Coach Brett carrying the baseballs in. Not one at a time. That would take forever. But the bucket man, the bucket of balls have arrived. The Lincoln A's are making their way to Haymarket. Excited for my kid and his baseball team of many years. They get a doubleheader going here at 5:30 at Haymarket. We have a lot to get into. It is Big Ten Media Days week. We're in Indy Thursday and Friday, and a lot of football to talk about. We'll hit some recruiting. We'll talk Big Ten big picture and the 2021 outlook. Greg Smith, recruiting guru, coming up in about 15 minutes. Ramel Lloyd Jr., big-time basketball commit, top 150 guard. The mayor doing work on the trail again as a big-time get for Nebraska basketball for the 2022 class. Ramel Lloyd Jr. will join us in 30 minutes. Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, in hour two. And then Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore will get his take on the whole Tanner Farmer v. Mo Washington fight that should have happened that didn't. Shout out to the No Block, No Rock podcast for that. That episode, but those 2.5 minutes of pure gold. Elijah Herbel is with us. Elijah, what do you know? Great day for baseball. What's up?
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful day for baseball, but it was also a really great day for moving out one of my friends from his apartment and then into my spare bedroom. He's looking for a nice, a lease-free way to have a place to stay in Lincoln for the next couple of months while he finishes up a summer gig, and then he wants to have some flexibility to go move elsewhere, so I guess my spare room is now his room. I got to figure out what to do with all my junk that I had to move out of there so he could move in.
You know what? If you're his landlord, you just tell him, take it as is, bro. You get to make those rules. So there it is. Numbers to get in today, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Really interesting story, article by our friend Adam Rittenberg of ESPN.com, recounting Nebraska's struggles in the Big Ten. That isn't really new news, but it's been pretty well detailed by Coach Osborne, Harvey Perlman. I apologize, putting those two names together will never happen again, but touching on who's commenting in the article, and also some anonymous insight from former assistants. And listen, we can dive into that. We will dive into that. Also, when it comes to recruiting here, what's Nebraska need to be on the trail? And Elijah, I look at Nebraska and what they were when they came into the Big Ten, and they were a team that was so good at putting up points. I mean, that's why Tim Beck was hired at Ohio State. That's why Tim Beck went to Texas. Tim Beck and the offensive weaponry Nebraska had was incredible. They had killer Big 12 offenses that came to the Big Ten, and nobody could check them. Nebraska routinely put up enough points in some of those big games, those blowouts, and honestly, they got off to pretty good starts, excluding the Big Ten championship game with the first or second play of the game. It's an interception, but for the most part, I can point back, and this isn't to continue to beat my own drum. It's my honest to goodness take. Nebraska's okay if they don't make a change on Bo Pelini. Period. End of discussion. Is it winning at the level some of you want? No. Is it some of the behavior some of you can't stand? Yeah. But when push comes to shove, Nebraska was quite a bit over 500 in the league. They were beating Northwestern, always a tight ball game. They beat Michigan. They would beat Iowa. They only lost once to Iowa. They swept Penn State, and I know Penn State was still dealing with sanctions, but hell of a lot of NFL guys on those Penn State teams that Nebraska beat. So there's your problem. Your problem is you made a change, and the change you made went from a style that gave you a chance to win offensively. Nebraska was in a world of hurt for about a 2-year window when they first transitioned into the Big Ten on the defensive line. But then they stabilized there, and they had some good defensive lines, in my opinion. When you look at Malik and Randy and Vincent, I mean, those guys were good on the lines. So Nebraska was trying to turn the corner and go from your typical 9-3, 9-4 squad that couldn't solve the Wisconsin issue to a team that could play with Wisconsin under Riley but get whacked by everybody else. Okay? I mean, that's what you traded, and you brought in a guy who got the Pac-12, and his teams were Pac-12 soft, and Mike Riley. All right? Bo at least got the Big Ten, and they were tough. That's what I point back to. There's your moment in flux capacitor history with Nebraska in reference to why it is sucked in the Big Ten. And then you have, more changes within administration, and you have more coaching changes, and it sets your program back. Meanwhile, you have two things Frost was trying to fix. A, what he walked into when you had a different lack of supervision culture under Riley. He treated guys like they're already in the NFL. Can't do that to 18 to 22-year-olds, and I like Mike Riley. And then you brought your own philosophies and some body types that you won the AAC with, and Nebraska's made that correction at wide receiver and trying to do so at running back. But Frost knew from day one and from season one what you need on the lines of scrimmage. Nebraska has addressed that. So there's your whole ball of wax in my synopsis. And can and will it get better for Nebraska football? If they're better on the lines of scrimmage, then they can be better in the Big Ten. But you cannot, there is no substitute for knowing the league. Bo Pelini knew the league, and there's no substitute for the ability to win close ball games, and Bo knew how to win close ball games against teams Nebraska has not been beating or been beating on a regular basis post Bo Pelini. Now, the embarrassing blowout losses, I got no answer for you there. Those hurt, those suck, I get it. It's no fun to get rolled by Wisconsin in historic proportions with that levee breaking, be it Melvin Gordon, or you got a pair of 200-yard rushers in the Big Ten title game. But Nebraska was a hell of a lot closer then to winning the Big Ten than they ever were under Riley, and where they are right now as we speak with Frost. There's my take.
Yeah, and whenever you look at Bo Pelini, I mean, he was still in the process of trying to shift his recruiting base whenever he got canned. I mean, he had good connections in Ohio, being a Youngstown guy, and his first job after Nebraska is going to Ohio, and that's the heart of Big Ten country. But whenever he was in the Big Ten, most of his recruits were still Texas guys.
Texas and California, and it rocked. They did well.
Exactly. And then he just tried to shift his recruiting base as he got into the Big Ten, and he didn't honestly get the time to be able to do that before he got sent down the road, and we bring in Mike Riley to go completely West Coast, which just in hindsight makes absolutely no sense. I remember being confused by that hire the day it happened, being like, oh, Mike Riley, this wasn't even a name that was being discussed by anyone in the media or anything like that, and it just felt kind of out of the blue. But I said, okay, maybe they know better than me, and no, they didn't.
Well, here's the other thought too. I mean, think about.
I mean, it just doesn't feel like we've had a recruiting base since we've joined the Big Ten.
You've tried. You tried to shop in Ohio, and it was okay, but it wasn't what Ohio State was doing. It wasn't what Michigan was doing. I mean, you were getting, it's okay to get third or fourth pick out of there. Traditionally that's been okay for a lot of schools, but you're not going to make a living. You were well connected in Texas and in California, and think of some of the guys that did well in the Big Ten from that. I mean, Rex Burkhead did well, all right. Randy Gregory's kind of in that Big Ten footprint, clearly, obviously, with being an Indiana kid. And then Malik's a Kansas City guy. Vincent's an Illinois guy. So, I mean, Nebraska adjusted well, but honestly, there was that vacuum when you're making the move to the Big 12. You still had some good feelings and some good times post-Sioux, right? You still had the Sioux residual, and it doesn't feel like Nebraska made a big-time connection. I think the recruiting class that they signed after the Sioux years, I don't think any of those kids ever ended up contributing or playing meaningful snaps, quite honestly. And then you make a change once Carl leaves at defensive line. You bring in Coach Kaczynski, Kaz knew the Big Ten being from Iowa, and they went to work and got better on the defensive line. But Nebraska, I mean, they had Levante, they had Will Compton, they had some guys, man. They had some dudes that were good in the middle. They had some good guys in the secondary. And offensively, between the Quincy Enunwas and the Kenny Bells, and then you had Rex and Amir. You can say what you want about T-Magic, but he killed a lot of defenses, man, in the Big Ten. And even Tommy Armstrong did. And Tommy, just watching him play ball, man, he would have been he doesn't get the credit he deserves as talented an athlete as he is. But Nebraska had a team that could put up and did put up a lot of points. We're going to try and run down Tyler Hunt, the manager of the Lincoln A's, here in a moment, just to give him a couple of minutes. Elijah, here as this doubleheader gets going here at Haymarket between the Lincoln A's. Excited about that. But no, there's a lot of reason for struggle, and it's been, the question is it Nebraska getting in their own way once they transitioned, or is it truly a situation where, the team's jumping leagues, so it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard for a team to make that transition, because you go from fire hydrant type defensive linemen, right, the short, stocky guys, to needing guys that are built a little bit more like Randy Gregory and Malik Collins. So it's not just one thing, Elijah, but it is a mixture of things. And I think if I'm going to pick a reason, I think it's more Nebraska being in Nebraska's own way that's slowed their progress in the Big Ten.
Well, yeah, I'm with you, because whenever you look at the past 10 years since we've joined the Big Ten, the big theme of Nebraska football has been instability in where you're recruiting, instability in the head coaching position, instability across all the assistant coaches, instability in the athletic chair. I mean, it just does not feel like there's been any continuity from year to year with this Husker football team, and it's obviously difficult to find success when that happens. I mean, even the play on the field, it feels like there's a lot of guys who come in, especially since Frost, that have been here. They get their grad transfer year, they get here for 1 year, and then boom, they hit the road. Or you get a new recruit in who looks good for a year, and then boom, he's on the road. So it's just, I don't think it's possible to find success in a league that's as difficult as the Big Ten is, whenever you got turnover every single year, from the roster to where you're recruiting to the athletic department to the athletic director to your coaching staff. It's been tough, and that's why I think Nebraska has tried to make it work with Coach Frost and his staff for 4 years now, and that's why they have a long leash, because you need stability whenever you're trying to join a new league and find success in a new league.
I totally agree with that. Ramel Lloyd Jr. is going to be with us here in 20 minutes. Top 150 recruit for Nebraska basketball. Greg Smith shortly. We bring in Tyler Hunt. He is the manager of the Lincoln A's. I've been so proud and fortunate to have Junior play ball for him and Coach Brett. Tyler, what do you think, man? Haymarket, no rain, sunshine. You got the Carolina Blue rocking tonight. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me, Chris. We're just grateful to be out here, and the Salt Dogs opened this place up for us to play on. Got rained out last week, but got another opportunity today.
What do you think, man? Team ready?
Oh, yeah, they're ready. We got your boy's going to be on the mound tonight, so we're going to see it.
Sweet God. Yeah. Can I give you 100 on air right now to keep that from happening?
Done, bet. we got some good information from our pitching coach, Jeff Christie, and going to see if we can roll the ball out there and play a little bolt ball.
That's pretty good. So bolt ball is in store. That's outstanding. That Junior's throwing tonight. So, Pete Rose right now wouldn't bet on the Ace tonight if Junior's throwing.
They are. They got
Pete Rose is saying
Pete's got a lot
gold.
of confidence in Junior tonight.
Pete says it's Junior on the hill tonight.
If we can just have Junior unhook the plow that he's dragging behind him when he's rounding the bases, that would be ideal.
That is it's a hereditary thing.
Yeah.
And we can't speak ill of his mother. We just can't do it.
I love it.
No, we can't do it. So, no, the Lincoln A's are ready to rock. They are in the third base dugout. Who's up first?
So we're playing the Blackhawks in the first game at 5:30, and then the Junior Pride. They're out of, I think, Omaha.
Junior Pride did us in state.
No, we beat them in state.
Okay, we got them in state.
Yeah, we got them in state.
I'm a wonderful Father of the Year candidate.
They're out for blood today, so we're going to have our A game ready to go.
That's pretty good.
I understand the concessions are going to be be open tonight, full service. So
you'll need something. Yeah, come on down to Haymarket. Watch the Lincoln A's. Junior went from the wild thing, Ricky Vaughn number, to a tribute to Derek Jeter in number. But no, I love my boy. He's played ball with Tyler and Coach Brett for 6 years, and it's been an awesome 6 years, and this is an exclamation point.
Yeah.
Tyler, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Greg Smith's on the way.
And we're back
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back here at Haymarket Park, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. The Lincoln A's are set to take the field here in a little more than an hour, game 1 of 2. You just heard from Coach Tyler. Big night for Junior's baseball team. This is really awesome that they get a chance to play some ball at the incredible gem of not only college but pro baseball, Haymarket Park. Thoughts on the Adam Rittenberg story, on Nebraska's struggles in the Big Ten? Where do you lean? Is it more about Nebraska, or do you chalk it up to more of it being a situation with conference change? And you gotta change how and who you recruit when you make the shift in the league. We'll talk recruiting here with Greg Smith, HailVarsity.com and magazine, at Greg Smith HV on Twitter. Greg, busy day. I know things are quiet on the trail, sort of, kind of, but Nebraska's always working. We'll start off with Hayden Schwartz. What do you like about this kid's game? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I like his motor. I think that's the first thing that you kind of notice when you pop the film on. Also, his frame. He's got really good size. As a kid that can rush the passer from the defensive end spot, and I think that's where Nebraska will start him out, as kind of a rush in to get after the quarterback. But also, I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility to have him trim down some and play kind of an outside linebacker in the mold that Garrett Nelson plays. But I like him as a rush in, like I think Nebraska does right now.
Greg, some thoughts here on the Adam Rittenberg story about Nebraska's struggles, and as you've analyzed things on the recruiting trail, and I know you did a story and did a kind of a video Q&A. You always do that each week, and for more info, check out at Hail Varsity and at Greg Smith HV. You and Aaron Sorensen always kind of go back and forth on some really awesome topics. But as you look at Nebraska recruiting now, do you think they've been able to be comfortable? It's never comfortable in recruiting, obviously, but at least from a body type and a style and a player profile, do you think Nebraska's in as good a shape as they've been in a while when it comes to recruiting? What's your take?
Yes, I do think that they're in as good a shape as they have been in a while. And part of that, and part of the issue here for Nebraska has been multiple, right? Is that, and it goes into this with recruiting, is that having the coach turnover that Nebraska has had has not led to consistency on the recruiting trail. So you're not always looking for the same types of players, and we know that. You're also not looking in the same hot spots for players, right? As we've seen that shift and change over these coaching changes as well. And so having that continuity continuity with this staff has definitely helped in that regard. Also, having this staff continue to understand, what type of size they need in this league. I continue to want to give them public praise for that, because I think that recognizing that and making that adjustment on the fly is worth praising. You got to see how it comes out in the wash with the results. But I definitely think they're in as good a shape body type-wise as they have been in quite some time to compete in this league.
You just nailed it. If you're always turning over a coach will want a different body type, or they're recruiting to a certain philosophy. Bo would recruit towards what can I do to just get gash offensive chunks, and they did it with the Amirs, the Kenny Bells, the Anunwas, the Taylor Martinez, the Rex Burkhead. They got high flyers, man. They had a really good offensive line. An athletic but very physical, wonderful combination for a lot of years on the offensive line. They got where they needed to be on the defensive line after kind of getting pulverized there, or doing more makeshift on the lines when they go from Big 12 to Big 10. But it got okay, and Nebraska was able to get after the quarterback and be good enough against the run. And they won a lot of close games. Then you go shift to Riley's philosophy. It's awesome if you're tossing the ball around in the Pac-12, but I think Nebraska just got soft on the lines of scrimmage, and the rest of the league knew it, and they got pulverized, quite honestly. So now here comes your third coach since being in the Big Ten. And Frost has had to adjust a little bit from what he originally came in with in a whirlwind to what he's going after now. So I think you nailed it. You didn't have any consistency, and everybody's got different ties for the most part, don't they, when it comes to a recruiting base?
Yeah, it's vastly different from what was happening under Pelini, what was happening, what Riley then came in with his philosophy to what Frost came in trying to do. And it's kind of funny when you even just keep it to Frost and what they kind of came in wanting to recruit the South, and then kind of see what happens with the Midwest. Well, you kind of figure out that, hey, you might have come into this region at the exact right time where talent is just exploding in the 500-mile radius and a little bit beyond, right? So it actually makes sense to kind of focus in on that and then kind of cherry pick from guys in the South. And I think you've seen that shift a little bit too. It's just really interesting on how that all kind of compounds itself when it feels like, oh, you're talking about previous coaching staff still, but it's not even necessarily about them. It's about the huge shifts in philosophy while being in a conference that has a lot of consistency and teams that know who they are.
Now, Greg, we were talking in the first segment how Nebraska's kind of moved around their recruiting base from place to place since they've joined the Big Ten, from California, Ohio. Now they're looking at, there was Florida for a little bit. Now it's more that Georgia area. So do you think Nebraska has found its first, real recruiting base that can find them success since they've joined the Big Ten, or are we still in wait-and-see mode?
I still think we need a little bit more consistency with what happens to really establish or say, hey, this is the area that Nebraska has established. We know, like you said, they want to recruit Georgia. They still want to get some speed out of Florida. But the thing that I continue to look for with that is how many times is Nebraska going up against Big Ten schools for recruits? I think that it's a good thing in a way. If you see Nebraska, or you continue to see Nebraska battling, now Indiana continues to pop up. Michigan State keeps popping up, but like Michigan, you want to battle. At some point, of course, you want to start battling Ohio State, but that's a few years away. But I think that that's what Nebraska needs to be able to do, is to go up against those Big Ten schools, and Iowa obviously too, and they've been continuing to battle with them, so that you're taking players away from your competition, and then you're beating them with those players that they wanted.
Greg, a thought on, what should Nebraska be, and I'll ask you, what should Nebraska be in the Big Ten from a recruiting ranking standpoint? And you need to see those rankings translate, because they seem to for Ohio State. And then you look at Northwestern and Indiana, they get the fit, and boy, do they get that fit right, because they've been really good the last couple of years.
Yeah, Nebraska has an opportunity, in my mind, to be that third or fourth best team in the conference when it comes to recruiting rankings, basically every year, just based on the tradition, the fan base, now with NIL, just like how high profile the program is here. Ohio State's always going to be one. Michigan and Penn State are going to probably battle for those next couple of spots, and then Nebraska follows right in there with the other team that didn't make it, and now Wisconsin is on the rise. So, third or fourth in the league is about about where they need to be. But I think you nailed the key point, which is it's got to translate on the field. Nebraska's recruiting rankings have been great on paper for the last handful of years. It's now time for that to catch up on the field.
Now, Greg, there's a quote from this Adam Rittenberg article when it talks about football's recruiting, saying that the path forward is through recruiting, but that you're going to struggle to compete against a lot of these teams, especially ones that have major airports or are closer to other recruiting bases. But when you look at the Husker basketball team and what they've been able to do in their recruiting just since Hoiberg has arrived, do you think that kind of bucks that trend and says, maybe Nebraska can compete in football with recruiting with these other Big Ten giants?
Yeah, I think that the basketball example, but I think the example is there for football. Like, Nebraska has recruited on paper just fine. It's whether or not they can actually develop guys once they get here, they can keep guys, and then they can have success on the field. Like, that's what it's about, because I still think that if Nebraska was better on the field, that those recruiting rankings could even tick up just a little bit, and you could see them start to nudge up to compete with the top couple of teams in the league. Ohio State, again, is going to be on its own because they've got their own juggernaut rolling on the trail. But I think that they're just fine where they are recruiting-wise and, like, the rankings and how they fall. If Nebraska is a top 15, top 18 class every year, that's going to put you basically first in the Big Ten West every year. That's good enough to win a lot of ball games.
Greg, think if you get the combination of you're getting 15 to 18, or maybe you get a 12 or, God forbid, a 10, but say your development matches what's on paper. I mean, that's to me what makes Ohio State or Bama special. Yeah, they're getting insanely talented guys, but they're developing a first and second and a third team. So it's reload time once somebody takes off for the NFL. That's to me where, and the other part of this too, Greg, got a couple of minutes here. Nebraska's lost so many guys. Do we know if this staff, what do we know what this staff can be when it comes to development? Because I tell you what, man, there's been a lot of kids that haven't stuck around for whatever reason, and that's too bad. And I think we'll get a chance to see a great glimpse of Coach Austin. I think the offensive lines have continued to improve. I think the defensive lines have continued to improve. You've seen the secondaries be pretty good. You've seen the linebackers grow forward. It's really kind of about the offense, and you've got a new offensive coordinator and wide receiver position coach now going into year 2, non-COVID year, really a year 1. So do we have a full, fair assessment on Nebraska's developmental abilities?
We probably do not, especially in those two areas really that were kind of big question marks. Wide receiver, we really don't have an idea because Lubick hasn't been here long enough with guys that they've really tried to recruit here over the last couple of years. That they've changed the body type profile of that. And then running back is now a question mark going forward. Nebraska can recruit on paper good running backs, and that's still continued to happen, but being able to develop those guys, and we'll definitely get a true sense of what Ryan Hell's doing there based on all the young players that they have the promise in the room.
Greg Smith is with us, recruiting thoughts, kind of in reference to the Adam Rittenberg article. Why has Nebraska struggled in the Big Ten? Has it been more about Nebraska, or has the league shift been something that slowed where Nebraska can be? It's kind of choose your own adventure. You remember the old grade school book? You have 3 doors to choose how it ends. And we'll see where Nebraska goes this year. But, Greg, what are you looking forward to here? About 30 seconds here with Media Days, man. What team are you most intrigued by?
Man, okay, so outside of Nebraska, I think Indiana is one that sticks out to me, because how do they deal now with having a little bit of that target on their back, right? And now Tom Allen is not sneaking up on anybody. He's been kind of a darling of the league here over the last couple of years. And plus, I still think on another note that to see the Harbaugh show and how it's now received, as he's been there multiple years, is always kind of fascinating to me, too.
Greg, appreciate you. We'll get caught up soon. Thanks for the time.
Hey, sounds good. Have a great week.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back to you, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel here at Haymarket Park, sun-drenched, home of Husker baseball, and, of course, the Salt Dogs. And It is the Lincoln A's, a doubleheader they are hosting here. Juniors team, Coach Tyler and Coach Brett. The Lincoln A's are warming up right now. We will avoid play-by-play on how my kid does catching a fly ball here shortly. Let's talk basketball. Nebraska continues to be amazing on the recruiting trail. A top 125 player for 2022 committing to Nebraska out of Chatsworth, California. Ramel Lloyd Jr. joins us on the show. Ramel, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, man. So take me through your process. A lot of heavy hitters coming after you to play college basketball. And just reset for the listeners, if you can, where Nebraska was in that pecking order and how they emerged. What was it about Nebraska that was so special that made you want to say yes?
Well, for me, it was about finding the place that was the best fit for me as a person and me as a basketball player. So Nebraska fit, all those boxes and check those boxes out for me as a player and as a person. So I just thought it was going to be the best fit for my future.
Ramel, when you look at fit, that's so important. Give us a look-see into what needed to be checked in that box. What when you talk about your fit, what were you looking forward to, not only to further your education but further your game? How did Nebraska stand out that way specifically?
Well, mainly Coach Hoiberg. Coach Hoiberg has been an NBA coach, NBA GM, and he has all the answers. I mean, his 5-out offense and the flow and what he wants from his guys is everything I'm looking for.
Now, Ramel, your dad, he's a guy who was a top high school basketball player as well, and he spent a year at Syracuse and then ended up transferring to, I believe, Long Beach State, where he had a pretty successful career. Now, was he, advising you on making sure that you found a spot that fit what worked for you? I mean, he's a guy who had a pretty talented basketball career himself.
Yeah, Pops was a big part of this whole journey. He's the one that put the ball in my hand and started me off, so he was definitely advising me throughout this process the whole time. And he felt the same way about Nebraska as I did. So it was an easy decision for us.
I got to ask, when's the last time you beat Pops in one-on-one?
The last time, I don't remember the last time we played, but to answer your question, I've definitely beaten Pops one-on-one. I caught up to him. He can't beat me anymore.
So do you beat him by a little, or do you put the hammer down?
Pops. Even though Pops a little older now, he still got it a little bit. So what I do is I try to keep it close until he gets tired, and then I just go full throttle on him. Then he can't really do too much when he gets tired.
Talking with new Husker basketball commit Ramel Lloyd Jr. here. And Ramel, when I was going through YouTube last night, watching your highlights, I saw some videos of you when you were in like 6th, 7th grade. And I heard a story from your dad about how you got into your trainer's attention, essentially. Is you were playing against his team and you were, just dropping buckets on him. He decided that he wanted you on his team. Is that how that went down?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it was, At that time, it was early in my career, so we just kind of started playing everything. And I was playing a couple of age groups up, and we were playing against my trainer / coach. And he thought that I was older than what the actual age group was. And then so he wound up talking to us after the game and found out that I was younger. And he was like, "Well, if you're really this age, like you're probably one of the best players in the country." So he took me under his wing, and he just has been helping me build since then.
Ramel Lloyd's with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, new commit for Nebraska basketball. Ramel, I want to get your take on what you love about the Nebraska / Hoiberg offense. I know the 5-out, the space, the pace. I mean, Fred preaches that, and when it works, it's incredible. You're fit with it. Are you going to be splitting time with handling the ball or more of a shooting guard, off guard? What's kind of the blueprint for you? What's Nebraska looking at from you?
Yeah, I'm a versatile player, all-around guy, so I'm definitely going to be on the ball, off the ball, a combo guard. I could play off and I could play on it. I can do a bunch of different things on the floor, so I know coaches are going to utilize me every way possible.
Now, who do you like to pattern your game after? Who's somebody past or present in the association that you think your game matches up with, or you've maybe taken snippets of their game and you've added to your repertoire?
there's a couple different guys. I would say I like to watch a lot of Devin Booker, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Bradley Beal, a couple of the combo guards that could facilitate, score at all three levels, and just be very versatile when it comes to that. So those are mainly the guys I talk to or watch.
So, Ramel, I know that NBA is probably the main goal for you, being a top 100 recruit. So I want to ask, what are you working on in your game right now that you want to get better on to be able to improve yourself and be, seen by NBA scouts? I mean, you had a COVID year last year, which I'm sure screwed up a lot of things, but it may have also given you a chance to work on some other parts of your game that you may have not gotten a chance to work on otherwise.
Well, for me, I just been continuing to sharpen my skills in every aspect. Obviously, as the level go up, the guys get bigger and stronger. So just continue to work on my body and just continue shooting jump shots and just getting everything sharp. So as the levels move up, I'll be at the right spot.
Ramel, when you took your official to Lincoln, there's the reputation of Lincoln, Nebraska. There's the reality of Lincoln, Nebraska. What stuck out to you about Lincoln, and who did you connect with as far as guys that hosted you, guys on the team that helped make you feel at home?
Well, from when I was there, Lincoln was great. The city, it seems fun. I mean, the coaches have told me about how the fans are and how crazy it can get, and just the support around the city and the area. So I'm looking forward to coming back out there sometime this year and checking out a football game or a basketball game and really getting to see firsthand. But, it was great. And on my visit, I got a chance to be with pretty much the whole team, and everybody had a great vibe about them, and I loved it. So it just felt like family from the beginning.
Ramel, we got about a minute left. Your time for maybe one or two last thoughts. So I just want to ask, the talk of college sports the past few weeks has been name, image, and likeness, and Nebraska's really been on the forefront of that. So was that a major part of what Hoiberg and company were selling to you as a part of your recruitment?
Not necessarily. It's obviously very nice to have now, and I'm glad guys are able to utilize NIL stuff, but for me, that wasn't too important. I was really just looking for a school that I could play at and, fit.
Ramel, last thought here. Tell us your expectations for Sierra Canyon. What's this senior season going to be like for you?
Oh, yeah, for us, it's going to be it's not going to be a good season. So I want to be undefeated, state champions, national champions. We're coming for everything this year.
Ramel, I guess I got one last quick thought. I'm sorry that we told you last one, but I got one more. What's it like playing with guys like, LeBron James, even Drake being on the sideline? That's got to be crazy as a high school basketball environment, right?
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's really fun, to be a part of something like that, for sure.
Ramel, best to you. Good luck with that senior season. Thanks for a few minutes with us on Hail Varsity.
Thank you for having me. You guys have a good one.
You too. There he is. So the key is his tire pops out and then take him down in the driveway with one-on-one. I love that. Ramel Lloyd Jr., big-time talent. Nice get for Hoiberg and company. They are crushing it. We'll wind down hour one here at Haymarket with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. The Lincoln A's are at Haymarket Park. Get ready for a doubleheader. Probably the final Lincoln game for a lot of kids that played a lot of ball together, going back 6-7 years. And Coach Tyler helped us kick off the first segment with Coach Brett. And, going to be a lot of fun tonight. Haymarket Park, Charlie Meyer, the Salt Dogs, so gracious to allow this to happen. They let, there is the opportunity to rent out Haymarket to do some tournaments and host some tournaments. And I can't thank them enough for, making this available to a bunch of 14-year-olds. And they are going to remember this forever. Now, we will not set any in-game lines, Elijah, on hits, runs, errors, extra base hits, or even home runs off Junior. If someone tags a home run off Junior today, this will be a week's worth. I might even bring it up in Indy this week. Just once an hour, to pile on him if he doesn't clean his room or something like that.
I mean, it's a little harsh, but I don't think you're coming from a bad place here, no.
But Tyler's confident. Even Pete Rose would bet on the A's tonight. That's pretty good. Speaking of bets, if it were to go down in the octagon, would you take a flyer on Mo Washington versus Tanner Farmer? This from the good folks at No Block, No Rock, their podcast with Tanner Farmer. One time Mo almost met the angel of death in the locker room.
Yeah, I remember I looked at Maurice and I was like, wow, this guy's special. Yeah. He's got athletic talent. Yep. And then I talked to him and I'm like, uh-oh. This isn't going to be working. I remember at one point I went to Coach Austin and I was like, that guy's not going to make it here. He's like, oh, we just need to surround him by the right people. And I was like, I don't think you understand. I've tried. I would talk to him and be like, hey man, come on, you got to go to class. I was like, do you need help? Do you need, like, you're not waking up? It's like, if you're not waking up, I was like, do you need people to knock on your door? I was like, do you need, like, how can I help you? Right. And I went up to him after practice, after he'd been late to practice. And I was like, hey man, let's sit down and talk about this. I was like, I said, you're my brother. Let's figure this out. Yeah. And he says, get the off me. And I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa. I was like, man, it's like, you just can't talk. I said, I'm just trying to help you. I was like, don't talk to me like that. Yeah. And he's like, get the out of my face. And then I was like, he just put my hand on his shoulder. I was like, that's not okay. I'm starting to get pissed. Right. Like, I'm trying to stay composed. I'm like, I'm trying to treat you well right now. Yeah. But you're acting out of line. Yeah. And then I just put my hand on my shoulder. I didn't really grab him. And then he throws my hand off, grabs me up by the chest, and he goes to punch me. And I, at that point, I brought him in real close, and it's about to go down. And then one of the coaches, I think it was Sean Beckton at the time, he comes in, breaks it up. Like, I think he had seen like what was leading up, and as soon as we were about to go, he's like, I got to break this up right now.
So typically, Elijah, what's the line on an MMA fight? Like, say Connor's fighting a tomato can pre-leg snappage.
Oh, I mean that's going to be like a minus 500, minus 600 favorite. So I got to have Tanner Farmer at like minus 800 just with his wrestling background too.
So you're going to have to bet $800 to win 100.
Probably, yeah.
That's very fair. Coach McBride's next. It's a Monday with Charlie. Hail Varsity continues from Haymarket Park, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. It's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery here at Haymarket Park. Gorgeous night for baseball, I believe. Yes, the concessions are open, so I'm smelling brats and Fairbury brand hot dogs, and there's a tap or several open. Right now, Junior's shagging. He is getting the start tonight here at Haymarket Park. His team is 14U baseball team. They rented out Haymarket in a doubleheader tonight, 5:30 and 7:30. So you want to see some ball, come on down to Haymarket, get a cold one, and we'll set the over-under on number of innings pitched for Junior here before we get out at 6. We welcome in Mr. Blackshirt Monday with Charlie, Coach Charlie McBride with us. Coach, how we doing today?
Good. I just got back eating a whole bunch of ice cream. I'm just trying to gain all this weight I lost back.
Well, how much ice cream we talking? That sounds like a plan to me, man.
You can't eat it, and it's the smallest. You get a bowl of it, and it's the smallest bowl they got, and it's about 5 scoops, and you can't eat it all. They think we're growing. I'm a growing boy still.
That's the way to. So, are you a homemade ice cream guy? Do you like chocolate, Rocky Road? What are we going with?
I had mint avalanche today.
Oh, wow, that sounds pretty good.
It was good.
Well, we're getting.
They got about 50 different flavors. I mean, this place is something else. It's in a little town called Nottawa. So anyway, it was great. Everybody had fun.
There you go. Charlie McBride, the Mint Avalanche is highly recommended from Coach. So, Coach, I want to dive into some things here. ESPN did a big feature on Nebraska in the Big Ten. You know, you're going in from year 10 to 11. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how this year shakes out. And I think Scott's pretty confident in what he has with his team. That said, they were trying to pinpoint, you know, why it went all sideways for Nebraska. Why hasn't Nebraska been better in the Big Ten? And my question to you, if you were to pick one side of the aisle here, is Nebraska's struggles more on Nebraska or more about the league just being that difficult? And when I mean, you know, Nebraska's struggles, you know how the song and dance has been going. You either make it a change at coach or athletic director, and there's been minimal stability. So if you had to pick which one as a primary reason, what would you go with?
Well, I think one of the things you have to look at is how much all the leagues, whether you compare the Big 12 to the Big 10, how much all those teams have improved. Yeah, I mean, the improvement of all of it has been, even in the Big Ten, because it used to just be Oklahoma, Michigan, year after year after year after year. It was the rest of it was a waste of time. And then as coaches changed and came in, they got things going and got the new facilities and all these different things just completely changed college football. I think the facility thing was a big thing with a lot of the players, a lot of the kids coming in in all sports. I mean, you go look at the volleyball. They did what they could at the rec center, made it great, but they made it even better when they went to the Devaney, and then so things improved there, and so on and so forth. So that's one of the things I think that improved. I think with us, was just too many changes. I mean, it just was not a good thing, and that's not only been us. If you look back at Oklahoma for a few years there, they had about 4, 5, 6 changes, you know, and they kind of were in the tank for a while. And so when you start having that and you lose your continuity, you start messing a little bit with your tradition. And then I think the first year was a big thing when we didn't go to a bowl game after we'd been to one, 27, 28 in a row or some crazy number and stuff like that. You know, and then, you know, all of that stuff kind of hurt the program a little bit, I think. And it was all little things. They kept picking at it. And I think the change in coaches was one of the hardest things that hurt the program the most, because it just too hard when you have coaches about every 2 or 3 years, and when it started, when you get rid of a coach that won a bunch of games but things weren't going recruiting wise, where people don't remember back, but recruiting probably wasn't going very good then, and there were some other, I don't know all the stuff that went on, but the reasons, but, you know, and then you had the athletic director changes, and it was, you know, I mean, I'm sitting here going like, what the heck's going on? I mean, and so was everybody else. I mean, it was, you know, you got to kind of stick with people once in a while and hope like they can develop, and sometimes I think we got a little hasty maybe, and but then there were also some guys that weren't built for college football, you know, and that's a hard thing to figure out unless they've been coaching in college previously. And you take like Callahan, he coached at Illinois, but for a lot of that afterwards was he went on to Northern Arizona then, I think, but then from then on it was all pro football, and he kind of fell into that realm. You know, he fits better in the NFL than he does in college football, although he did recruit some really good players that played. But I just think that the conference in all directions. Every conference you'll find is much improved, and it's just a general big improvement. Emphasis in high school got better, bigger, and football became a bigger thing, and they also got bigger in all of their their facilities and things like that. I mean, you go to some of these high schools and their weight rooms are really something, and so it's just a combination of stuff. I think it made everybody better, and once you start changing coaches and changing all that, you kind of fall behind.
Charlie McBride's with us Mondays with Charlie, Hail Varsity Radio. We're here live at Haymarket Park. Juniors team, the Lincoln A's, set to go here at 5:30. As both teams are warming up here, a doubleheader just off in front of me, Coach, behind center field, right across the Interstate Memorial Stadium. The West Stadium looks fantastic. Blue skies with a few clouds, so a great day for baseball. Excited to be here to watch my kid and his great teammates play ball. A lot of years with this team as they are winding their time together down. Coach, you mentioned a lot of different things, and can you imagine what Nebraska was going through, and do you think they're still going through it when it comes to getting a recruiting foothold even a decade later in the Big Ten? You got to have a home port, don't you? And it seems like you jump from the Big 12 where you can go to California and Texas. You can still go to California and Texas, but, you were playing at least twice a year or at least twice a team. Two teams from Texas each year were on your schedule in the Big 12. And Nebraska's not had that opportunity. They've done a nice job in Georgia. They've done a nice job with Scott's kids coming here. They just haven't been able to keep them all here, so they've shifted focus a little bit to closer to home, which is fine. But that's a big puzzle piece, isn't it, when we talk about struggles, not having kind of a home port recruiting-wise?
Well, I think you got coaches, too, and I don't know exactly, but I think you have coaches on the staff that are more familiar with that area in the South, along with Scott, at the time of the 3 years or so he was there. He got to know an awful lot of coaches and stuff like that, and it led him back to that area. And I think the first year, if you look at what Callahan did, is just about nothing in the state, and that really hurt. And when you treat the state, you don't treat it with respect. I mean, there's some good football players in this state, and they're kind of kids. A lot of times, they don't have the coaching that they have maybe in Texas and Florida and that kind of stuff. Some of these kids out in western Nebraska, some of the bigger schools, yes, maybe so, but the smaller schools, you may only have one or two assistants. And heck, some of these kids in the South been brought up through a junior college program, through the whole deal. And football was big time, all the time. And but that's why I said the kids in Nebraska, when they wanted to know who the best athletes were, I remember when they called, I think Gillespie was the recruiting coordinator at the time, and they wanted to know who the best player in the state was. Well, at that time it was Amon Green. And then I remember Gillespie saying, "Do you want to know? We have some other players." They said, "No, we don't want to know any other ones. Just that's good enough." So you know what kind of a business they were doing as far as evaluating. They just wanted. They had their own areas that they had at one time, and that's the same thing, kind of. If you really look at these guys, who's the guy in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and that? Those guys aren't getting the look in Idaho, and we've had players from Idaho, Montana, all up and down the area that probably weren't ever even. I don't know what they'd rate them. If they give them so many stars, if you have the best player in the state of Montana, he probably is a 4 or 5 star guy. The rest of them are probably 2s and 3s. So that's not fair, when you don't get the exposure. But again, the coaching has a lot to do with it too. And I think sometimes you get kids from Texas, which we have done, that don't get any better than they were in high school. I mean, they've been coached so good. I mean, they've been coached. They have been repetition so much. And then when you get them, they haven't had anything. Where now, when I was there, we used to get kids and move them to a position they never played before. But you knew they were good players, and you just coached them, taught them. You taught them what you wanted them to know, and they're easier to coach when they don't have bad habits.
I totally agree with you on that. Charlie McBride's with us. Mondays with Charlie. It's Hail Varsity Radio. And we're talking Nebraska and the Big Ten. You know, Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis is where we're going to be here Thursday and Friday. Excited to catch up with a lot of the players, the different coaches, and just be there. I've not ever been to Indianapolis. And, you know, I hear Coach, you can tell me this. You've been to Indianapolis before, right?
Uh-huh. Well, I've been there just recruiting-wise, but I haven't been there for a media day.
Okay. Well, where did you have dinner when you were in Indy? I mean, am I supposed to go get the shrimp cocktail? Is that the direction to go?
Yeah, I was always ended up in some small town eating in a cafe somewhere. Usually, that's where the good food is. I mean, when you get out in those smaller towns, they're not afraid to give you a meal. And you go to some, and the prices are a little heavy. And when you're on a per diem, you got to be careful where you're hiding out because it's a little hard explaining that you had a banquet or something.
Let me ask you that. Did you ever have to get called into the old principal's office and, well, Charlie, you had a half a side of beef and some baked potatoes?
Oh, yeah. When I was at Arizona State, I thought it was really something. That was my first full-time job, and I was in Chicago recruiting, and I took a bunch of the coaches out to dinner that I knew, guys that I knew, and I came back and I turned in that receipt, and the first thing Frank Cush said to me before we went out next year, he said, McBride, are you going to have that same banquet you had last year in Chicago?
That's pretty good.
But that's those are kind of things you got to be careful with when you're out. Now, we were pretty thin on how much money you could spend a day on food. It was really kind of you could lose weight easy on that
pretty
deal.
Good. Well, I'm kind of if you're going to the small town diner / cafe, I mean, I'm sure it was little pot roast or open face roast beef sandwich or maybe you did a little pork tenderloin. I don't know.
Well, they loaded up. The one thing they always had was good corn, and carbohydrates. A lot of potatoes cooked 10 different ways. I mean, they had all kinds of stuff. But I'll tell you what the big thing was usually you get close to the weekend, you start talking prime rib. And these guys, these small places would have, a queen size then was about 5 pounds, and a king size was, half of the steer. So, it was really something. And there's some places in Nebraska like that now. So, that I've been in where they're not afraid to feed you.
That's pretty good. Yes or no on the horseradish?
Oh yeah, you have to do that. Yeah, horseradish is. If you don't have horseradish, you just leave.
There it is. I love that. Well, we're going to go on a recruiting trip, and we're going to go get some prime rib, Coach.
Get some.
That's good. Okay. Coach, you take care. We'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks for making time today.
Okay. You take care of yourself and have fun tonight.
Will do. We'll get it handled.
Okay. Thank you. Bye now.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red, an NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it here at Haymarket Park, Hail Varsity Radio Roadshow Monday, and it's a good time to get caught up with Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore. And Jay, I know you're dying to know how junior bats here at Haymarket Park. The Lincoln A's are in action for a doubleheader, so Excited about that. Could Jay Moore step to the plate and go dead center 405 at your seasoned age right now?
Ooh, no, I don't think so. I'd like to think I could. That's a shot. Now, if you give me, and definitely not the wood bat, then maybe with an aluminum, maybe, but I don't think so. I haven't swung a baseball bat in years. I've swung some wiffle bats here lately, just pitching with my son. But other than that, it'd be fun to try, but it's going to take me a few at bats or a few cuts to try to get there. But I'm going to lean on. I'd take the under and say no.
I think if we get the right home run derby pitching machine to you, you'd be all right. Now I want to go back to Mav and the wiffle ball adventures, either in the front yard or backyard. If Mav pops out to Dad. What's his verbal response? Have we worked on that since the golf outing?
Well, he's lately become a big fan of The Sandlot, which I can't argue. It's a great movie. He loves. So he thinks when he's playing baseball, he's Benny the Jet. So we got a lot of one-liners from there. You play the ball like a girl, or one is calling people an L7. So you got a 4.5-year-old calling your dad an L7 weenie. So that's pretty good. No, he knows. He definitely is at the age now where he knows the words not to say and what you can say. So we're definitely working on that vocabulary. But I'm working on it as well, because I let a couple fly every now and then, and he catches me, and then I get tattled on to Mom. So and then I get a butt chew. But that's okay. That's gonna happen his whole life. He's big. Go ahead.
I was going to say, may I suggest you work in a little Goodfellas after The Sandlot, and I suggest that never rat on your friends, all right, or that part of the movie. Just show that on loop.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'll try that and see if that works. But that might not keep his attention long enough as The Sandlot does. But no, he's finally get to the age where he's enjoyed playing some sports and has the attention span now to do that. So it's been fun lately.
That's good. Jay Moore's with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. So, Jay, you had a chance to check out the little blurb, the podcast, No Block, No Rock. Shout out to those guys. Tanner Farmer, really talented wrestler, really talented football player, has graduated from Nebraska, but you saw the E! True Hollywood story on the Mo Washington effect of said locker room, and Tanner was trying to be an upperclassman, a bigger brother, and reach out, and Mo was pretty much telling him to step off, and a fight almost ensued. Little old Mo Washington, depending on how much Chick-fil-A he had that day, I'd go 180, and then Tanner Farmer, heavyweight wrestling / interior offensive lineman. There was no fight. It got stopped in the locker room. But some of us wish there could have been. There wasn't. But what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, not totally surprised. I mean, you have that. You have, with 150 guys on a roster, you're going to have some button heads, and it's usually not, with the freshmen. It's sometimes you have some of the older guys who, they're not, staying in line when they need to, but you have the younger guys that kind of do that. It's sad to hear, because it's, obviously you wish Washington could be part of the football team and obviously an exceptional talent, but, and it's hard to help people and they don't want to be helped. That's what makes it tough. And, I think they took a risk on Mo because obviously his talent was so good and so deep, and I think they knew he came from quite a troubled background, and you're trying to turn over some roster and get the talent where it needs to be, and he had it, but it's tough, and I'm not totally surprised at all. I mean, it's unfortunate that things happen like that, and you can see why the kid's not on the football team anymore as well. Obviously, made some other life choices, but when you have kids like that, it doesn't matter how good they are, you can't have them. You can't have him on the team because, it's hard when Mo Washington is playing and he's getting touches and he's showing up late to practice and not going to class. I mean, that does not look good to have respect in your football team among the coaching staff and your players. So, I'd never have ran into an issue like that or had anything like that, fortunately. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen when you have that many kids on the team, and it's probably not the last time it's going to happen. You know, he's got to hopefully you deal with it the right way, and you take care of it, and whether a coach is there or not. And sometimes, you know what, sometimes a guy needs what's best for him. It sounds like, you know, Mo Washington, needed his butt kicked a little bit. He probably would have done him some good, to be honest. But it didn't go down. But it's not surprised. And just what Nebraska's kind of gone through here the last 3 years, and just the struggles and some of the culture and that stuff. Even though Mo Washington, wasn't, he was a young kid, but that just kind of shows you what you deal with. You deal with them in a big team that you have, and a lot of kids that come from different backgrounds and different cultures and different personalities. It's you're gonna have a few bad eggs like that, and you just gotta deal with it and either get them right or they got to move on. And Mo Washington moved on.
Jay, your time at Nebraska, any locker room justice you can retell us?
Oh man,
there had to be fights like the Ryan Bingham, Richie Incognito, or did Sue go off on anybody?
Practice. Stuff really didn't happen that much in the locker room. I would say my time at Nebraska our team chemistry was pretty good, to be honest. I mean, all the fights happen in practice. Now, I got in fights with a lot of O-linemen. That just happens in the heat of practice. I mean, you're battling. Whether it's hot out in training camp or, I got in fights with Lyden Murtha and Chris Patrick and, Carl Nix and Matt Slauson, and things happen, right? So, stuff happens in practice, but afterwards, you move on, and it's honestly like, hey, my bad, and you just move on, and then you probably end up fighting maybe a week or two later, but that just happens. You guys are competing and you're trying to work at it and get better, but nothing to that extent that I can honestly remember, and that's probably a good thing. I'm glad I don't have any criticism towards it. It's usually the O-lineman. I always blame the O-lineman. It's usually they want to shove you in the back after the whistle's already blown or something like that. So then that really pisses me off. So then I come back and, I'm I'm smart enough not to throw punches at their at a helmet, but usually, it's, you grab their face mask and, hey, MFer, or, maybe a few other choice words for them, and say, do that again, like you're effing done, like you're toast. So, so they got a little lippy or whatever, and then the next time it happened, you had to throw some punches, and you had to get after them for a little bit, and then they got broke up, and then it's fine. Like, you move on and you go about your day. But that's happens. That happens in football practice. No matter, in college and NFL high level stuff, man, fights happen all the time, and it's whether it's bad blood or just guys trying to work and compete and get better, and one guy just tries to take it too far, then you correct them, you move on, and a lot of times it's water underneath the bridge a little later, and you battle a couple days later and a couple weeks later, and that's just the game. That's the nature. You're dealing with a lot of big men, a lot of testosterone, and football is a violent game. You have to go some dark places mentally to play the game, and sometimes you have to fight a teammate every now and then, unfortunately, just to keep them in line, or it's just part of the process.
Few minutes here. Jay Moore's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, and we're here at Haymarket Park, Lincoln A's, a doubleheader tonight. Gorgeous Haymarket. Excited to be here in the booth for the ball game tonight, talking some Husker football with Jay. So Jay, Adam Rittenberg came out, and Nebraska, kind of detailing the 10 years of Nebraska in the Big Ten. It started out okay. Nebraska made a coaching change. It has not been okay in the Big Ten. And pretty interesting question asked by Adam Rittenberg. And, of course, Uncle Jerry, Coach DiNardo weighed in. You had different Nebraska coaches or players weigh in, some anonymous folks around the league as well. And it's, who is Nebraska in 2021 in the Big Ten? Where do they fit in? And what rent district are they in? I mean, historically, yeah, they're in that blue blood category where you want to compare yourself to Ohio State and in Michigan, and Nebraska's probably, just a notch below Michigan the last few years, even though Michigan's not been great. But where would you categorize Nebraska here from a tier 1 Ohio State, a tier 2? Pick somebody that's good but not Ohio State, and a tier 3, which is probably Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, Maryland type rent district. Where do you see Nebraska at right now?
The last 3 years they'd be you have to put them in tier 3. Under Frost, definitely a tier 3 program. If I had overall through what is it now? Going on year 11, 10 in the Big Ten. So I'd probably put them at a tier 2. To me, Nebraska and Indiana seem pretty level. It pains me to say it, but I'm just calling a spade a spade. Indiana's
I'd take Indiana right now. I'd take Indiana's performance right now.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska's had some good years when in the early Big Tens with Pelini, and obviously, making the Big Ten, championship game, and obviously embarrassing loss to Wisconsin. But Indiana's been, they've had some good talent, some good teams come through there. Nebraska's, beaten Indiana. I think they've only played them once since they've been in the conference, if I remember correctly. So I think that's probably where they're at. It's definitely where we want them to be, but that's just, that's just fair to me. I can't think of, the Michigan State. I can't even say Michigan State. Michigan State's played, they're in the college football semifinals. That's the year Nebraska beat them, but they've had Michigan State's played in Rose Bowls, here as of late, and Nebraska, their best bowl game, is maybe a Gator Bowl, win against Georgia. It's tough. It's obviously they've struggled, and right now they're tier 3, but overall I'll say they're a tier 2 Indiana. And hopefully, they improve this year, but tough schedule, and a lot to be seen with this upcoming season.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Talking with former Blackshirt and Husker NFLer Jay Moore here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Jay, so much of this conversation is tied to Nebraska jumping ship to the Big Ten. But do you really think that the Big Ten jump is what caused the issues for Nebraska? Or do you think that it just kind of magnified the problems that were already there and has kind of given us a reason to try to make things different? It's a reason to fire Pelini. It's a reason to fire Mike Riley, is because the Big Ten is just showing the weaknesses in the program.
I don't know. I think we underestimate from looking outside looking in. I think we underestimate how tough the Big Ten is. We look and you see, Iowa Northwestern, the game's 14-10. Like, oh, that's what a brutal game. That's crappy football. Or you see, Michigan State, and it's doesn't look very good. It's and obviously Ohio State's always been pretty impressive. Penn State's been somewhat impressive. And you look. But then you realize, man, those teams are really good, and they just kind of beat up on each other. And we kind of realize how hard it is to beat Iowa, how hard it is to beat Northwestern, how hard it is to beat, Indiana, how hard it is to beat Michigan State, how hard it is to beat Penn State. A lot of these teams, year in and year out, week in and week out. I don't know if there's, there might have been easier weeks off in the Big 12, looking back at it. You respect everyone, but back in the day, Baylor's obviously gotten better, but Baylor was an easier game. Kansas is really struggling, and they're better when I was in the Big 12. But right now they're not very good, and hopefully with Coach Leipold they'll get that program turnover. So I don't know. I think the Big 12, but there's maybe a few more gettable games than in the Big 10. I think the Big 10 is really tough. It just is. It's kind of a grind. And I think from afar we thought, oh, these teams aren't very good. It's just a crappy, 6-3 Iowa playing, a 5-4 Northwestern. It's 14-10 10 at the start of the fourth quarter. Well, then Iowa maybe goes on and beats Penn State next week. Northwestern beats, Ohio State or whatever it is, and it's like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And I just think we took it for granted a little bit and thought we'd come in there and roll, and probably could have played a little better, but it is what it is. And you just kind of have a few lapses in recruiting, and you miss some guys, and really they just missed on the D-line, O-lines in some years, to be honest. They kind of caught up with us, and you're just playing catch-up, and we've been playing catch-up ever since, unfortunately.
Jay Moore's with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, and tell you what, Jay, excited for football, heading out to Indy on Wednesday, live shows Thursday and Friday from Lucas Oil Stadium. Ever have a preseason showdown or ever travel to Indy? You know much about the city? Any haunts you can suggest?
I've only been to Indianapolis once. That was when I went there for the NFL Combine, so I was pretty locked down there. Didn't have the old NFL Combine back in 2007. So was pretty locked down there. But you can't ever go wrong hitting up St. Elmo's. That sauce they have there and shrimp cocktail. Can't go wrong getting that place. So I haven't spent going to the Dome to work out and then stay in the hotel and kind of hang out, stay fresh, and get ready to compete at the Combine.
How much shrimp cocktail did you rock? Was it Costanza numbers?
I never, to be honest, I've never actually been there. I've had the sauce because people have had it. I think you can buy it now, but someone brought it back. And the sauce is phenomenal. It's spicier than hell, but it's really good. It was shrimp cocktail. Now I probably had maybe about 12 shrimp cocktail in the sauce at someone's house before, just hanging out before dinner, but never been there to be totally honest. But I think that's kind of the go-to spot in Indianapolis.
That's the sound of it, and we'll see. Nothing like getting an interview with Fitz or Frost and saying we need to take a media timeout because St. Elmo's Fire is going to seek its revenge. You sit down for an interview, and it could be dicey.
Mm-hmm. It could be very, very dicey.
Bird, do well with golf. Keep that pitching arm loosened up for Mav and wiffle ball. We'll do this again. Thanks for a few minutes.
Yep. You got it, guys. Thank you.
Good to get caught up with Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, Hail Varsity Radio on the road at Haymarket Park. The Lincoln A's versus the Blackhawks. We are underway. Junior, half inning pitched. 5 runs, 4 earned, and 4 hits allowed. It was time to go to the old bully, thank God.
The offense will pick them up.
But right now the A's are, mounting a comeback. They are down 5-0 playing defense right now, Elijah.
Well, there's a reason you bought Junior that new bat this year. He's got to get that bat going in the game today. He's making it up for on the mound in the batter's box. I'm sure that the offense is going to pick him up too.
We hope so. We hope so. But kudos to the Blackhawks. They have come out on all cylinders. Reminder about your friends at West Blue Realty. Maybe you're moving. Maybe it's time to sell that home because you're not going to get a number higher than what the housing market's giving you right now. Maybe you're looking to move into a better school district, or that dream house is on the block. West Blue Realty, westbluerealty.com is where you need to go. They specialize in residential home sales in Lincoln and surrounding communities. 2 names to know: Tom Luby, Kelly Hofschneider. They are phenomenal, and they'll help you out with your new home. Tom Luby's number 402-540-3768. Kelly Hofschneider 402-202-2312. It pays to work with West Blue. westbluerealty.com. Can make an appointment today, 1120 K Street, Suite 200. As right now, runners in motion, throw down to third by Bubba. Not in time. Nick Riling with a nice scoop at third. Second and third right now. 2 balls, 2 strikes for the Blackhawks. As in the batter's box right now, what's the kid's name? He likes Greg Maddox. That's fantastic. So
you don't have a media guide in front of you.
Well, they've been through the order. We'll just leave it there. You have Buckeye up to bat right now for the Blackhawks.
Well, okay, I'm hearing some walk-up music in the background. Did your son have a walk-out song when he was going up to the mound? That could have been the problem tonight.
I don't think he did, but I was playing Wild Thing on my phone for him from up here because he's either hot or cold, man. We'll dive in to the war on Twitter between Iowa and Nebraska, and it goes back to a double play ball. Well done by Nick Reiling at third base. Nick, the quick baby at third, able to snag a lasered line drive, grab it. The runner at third just too far off the bag. He steps on third, retires the side. No more damage done by the Blackhawks on the A's. Still 5-0 Blackhawks here. 6 hits allowed by A's pitching as the A's are back and ready to go here with their next at-bat. Time permitting, Elijah, we'll dive in to the Iowa-Nebraska Twitter battle. But great baseball right now at Haymarket here on ESPN.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time here on a Monday as the Lincoln A's here at Haymarket Park, juniors baseball team, and good old Connor up to bat right now, number 3, lefty. Connor's a good baller, great kid, and Garrett G just walked. He's on first with a 3-foot lead. Connor able to turn his back and get out of the way of that pitch that came a bit too inside. Seabass is on deck right now in the on-deck circle.
Did you see that video of that kid standing out on second base? And the kid that was at back it out of the way, and he yells, "Let it hit you!"
Yes.
Yes. So that's what should have been.
The kid that's here in Williamsport saying, "I just came here to hit dingers."
Yes.
John Kruk Jr. already. That's about right. Seabass is on deck. Connor right now on top, 2 balls and 1 strike. I miss doing baseball. Last time I did baseball, I think might have been Salt Dogs in the 04 season. That was a base rip by Connor down right field line. Turning and rounding second is Garrett, cut off to second base. 2 on, no out here for the Lincoln A's.
Yeah, I'll record this a little bit and add it to your portfolio. Maybe you can get a gig doing some baseball here in the near future.
Yeah, right. Whatever gets me the hell off of sports talk, huh? Thinking Elijah. Quick reminder about buckling up. 70% of people in fatal crashes in Nebraska not wearing a seatbelt. If used properly, a seatbelt can reduce the risk of fatal injury by up to 60%. Your best defense in any crash, buckling up. This message brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Tomorrow on the show, we are going to load up and spend some time. It's a Tuesday with Kaz, Rick Kaczynski with us. We'll dive into that Iowa-Nebraska Twitter war that's ongoing. Curveball outside to Seabass. And the count now 2 balls and a strike. We'll run down Gary Barnett. Coach Barnett will be with us ahead of media days. So Wednesday I'll be in the air. My layover is in St. Paul, and then I get to Indianapolis, and then I'll check in with you, Elijah, for Thursday morning on KFOR. We'll check in with Hooksy and Willie J from Indy, and then, of course, Hail Varsity 4 to 6. Thursday we'll catch up with as many Huskers as we can. Also Northwestern and Michigan, and a good lineup for you, kind of TBA. And then as much as we can give you Friday as well with Iowa and Ohio State and Indiana. And we'll see if we can't get the old pig farmer to sit down with this Brett Bielema, because, we're not far away, Elijah, here from Nebraska, Illinois. Snap throw back to second, not in time. Garrett back head first. G alert there. Connor on first base. Seabass right now, Sebastian Morales big Mike Trout guy. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Seabass, the last tournament in state, crushed one to left field, and it went yard. And that was pretty cool. Rest of the night for you, Elijah, you still have a little bit of time here to decide who you want for Game 6.
Well, I think I've already lost the series.
I'm sure you have.
I think you're up 4-1 on me.
Yes. I'll just let you keep picking, brother.
Thanks. I'm so good at it. I think I'll go with Milwaukee to close it out tonight.
Well, it's ball 4 to Seabass, and Junior up to bat with that shin guard that no doubt hurts his 40 time. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Hail Varsity. Thanks.